Hey guys, Brock here. The following was a joint podcast between the RCE crew and the Food Fight Show, which is a podcast that focuses on people who use Chef. The first half of the show is going to be us kind of talking with them to explain kind of what the needs of the HPC community are, from my view as an admin and from Jeff's view as a developer. And then the second half, we get into details of what Chef are for us and our listeners to understand. So hope you enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome back to the Food Fight Show. I am your co-host Nathan Harvey. With me today, as usual, my co-host Brian Barry. Brian, how are you today? Oh, Brian, the mute button. Don't forget the mute button.
We're typing.
So, I'm coming to you today from Annapolis, Maryland, where it is sunny and beautiful. Brian is coming to us today from Rome, Italy, where it is mute and quiet. So maybe Brian will fix his audio issues here in just a moment. But while he does, I wanted to share some information for you, some chef news. Actually, it's not necessarily chef news, but those of you that are listening, if you're listening to the Food Fight Show, I bet you have something to say about DevOps. Or system administration, things like this. We have some great conferences coming up where you should submit talks to, or you should at least plan on going to these conferences. So one talk, or there are a bunch of conferences coming up around DevOps days. A lot of them have CFPs that are closing very, very soon, so get your talk submitted as soon as you can. Those DevOps days that have CFPs closing soon include India, London, and Portland, probably a couple of other locations as well. Check the DevOpsDays.org site. Also, CloudStack Collaboration Conference in Europe has an open CFP that's going to be closing soon. So if you're doing some stuff with CloudStack, maybe that's worth checking out. Brian, can we hear you yet?
Yes, we can. And
All right.
the CFP for one of my favorite conferences is coming up. That is the Free and Open Source Developers Meeting for Europe. And that's in Brussels, I believe, February 1st and 2nd.
Awesome.
The call for proposals is due for the main track, I believe, October 1st.
Yes.
And I believe the call for the dev rooms to organize a dev room is on October 15th. Is that correct, Nathan?
That sounds about right. The dev rooms, I know there are always lots of dev rooms that are a lot of fun. Brian, you and I participated in a dev room last year, right?
Oh, we did. It was crazy fun.
Yeah.
And it's just neat because when you go to U.S. conferences, they're fun. You get people from all over the U.S., but you get an even much wider spectrum of people in Brussels.
Yeah, it was the thing about FOSDEM that I remember most is it was huge. Oh my gosh, it's so big. But then the other thing that was cool was the config management room. It was overflowing the entire time. That's both cool and sad because it meant some people couldn't come in and hang out with us and talk about config management. But a couple of folks have come up with a solution for that this year. You know what I'm talking about, Brian?
I don't. Oh, yes, I do know, and that is Config Management Camp, organized by our good friend Chris Beitert. That will be immediately after FOSDEM for 2 days. So you can get a little bit of configuration management in at FOSDEM, but then follow on for 2 whole days. What I like about this is that last year Chris did, he's been doing puppet camps, which is great, but I think he noticed, as many of us have also noticed, that whether it's puppet or chef, we're solving a lot of the same problems, and it makes sense to have a broader topic.
Absolutely, and so yeah, I'm working with Chris and a bunch of other folks to help organize this config management camp that's going to be the 2 days after FOSDEM. I think maybe we should have Chris come on the show and talk a little bit about it here in the next episode or two. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. I agree.
Yeah.
I also think that for a lot of Americans, you may feel like it's a long trek, but I think it's a really great opportunity to come to Europe and see and do something technical, but at the same time, go to a new place and meet some new people.
Absolutely.
And drink some fantastic beer.
It's good enough for me. All right, so enough of conferences. We're here to talk about Chef and HPC today. So we've got, actually this whole show I think kind of spawned out of an email that came onto the Chef Dev list from a couple of guys over at the RCE cast. And so I'd like to welcome today, we'll start with you, Brock. Brock, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. Forgive me, I'm still recovering from a little bit of an illness here, so I may sound a little funny. But just to introduce myself, I am Brock Palin, and I am one half of RCE Cast, and the other half is going to speak here in a minute and correct everything I say that is wrong. But RCE stands for Research, Computing, and Engineering. I personally reside at the College of Engineering at the University of Michigan. I am both an alumni, a student employee, and now a full-time employee there, where I am one of the admins for the High Performance Computing Group. Had this idea to start a podcast, which became RCE Cast, which is rce-cast.com, where we just like to explore and find out other things that are going on in our. It's a relatively small community, but there's a big split between science and you could say like administrators, and we like to kind of keep track of everything that's going on in terms of best practices and what new things are going on out there.
Excellent. And Jeff, introduce yourself.
Hi, hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm first-time Google Hangouts user, so hopefully I'm doing this right here. My name is Jeff Squires. I used to be the MPI guy at Cisco. MPI is kind of the lingua franca of what's used in these high-performance computing codes. It's middleware library that stands for the message passing interface. But now I'm actually one of the MPI guys at Cisco. We have tripled in size. So there are 3 of us here. So it's actually really cool to be working with a bunch of other MPI guys here at Cisco. But Brock kind of came up with the idea for this RCE Cast several years ago. I think he hit most of the high points there. The idea is that as a system administrator, Brock gets exposed to different things than I get exposed to because I'm a developer. And I develop the tools that people use, but I'm not a user. And so there's at least these 3 different communities that we kind of try to bring together, that we talk to different administrators, we talk to different high-performance computing projects, we talk to developers, and try to just kind of make sure that everybody knows about some of these cool new things that are coming that people aren't necessarily aware of. And so we just, basically what it comes down to is we find cool people and talk about cool topics. And sometimes it's not directly related to HPC, but the infrastructure around HPC, which is how we got turned on to Chef, and that's how we reached out to you guys.
Great, great. We also have Ben Cotton, my colleague, and I think Condor in Chief at Cycle Computing. Ben, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Ben Cotton, and like Brian said, I'm the resident Condor expert, or I should say HT Condor, at Cycle Computing, and I previously worked at Purdue University in the Research Systems Group. I guess Brock's counterpart at a better Big Ten institution, but.
All right, so we get to fight today on the Food Fight Show. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I brought my knife, so.
You guys can argue over obscure American sports.
Go Irish? Can I throw that one in?
No.
No idea what you guys are talking about. On to HPC. Oh, and we have as well the wonderful Matt Ray, a longtime contributor. Great to have you here, Matt.
And also representing the University of Texas with our. I actually got to work on I think it was Ranger at the time, which is the HPC cluster here at UT. I actually work for Opscode though, and haven't done any HPC stuff in like 10, 15 years. But I do work with a lot of people with some very large deployments, and hopefully I have something useful to add to the conversation.
Yeah, and I think before we get on, this year the University of Maryland, where I'm an alumni, bought their way. Moved into the Big Ten, so I have to come and represent. Go Terps!
You're talking about the Big Ten of supercomputers, right?
Right, the Big Ten of supercomputers, absolutely,
that's what
and football.
So that we keep using this word HPC. What does it mean, Brock? Can you define HPC for us?
Yeah, okay, I'll start and everyone can fill in the holes I miss. So HPC, it depends what you want it to be. The most common case we see is things that are horsepower bound, scientific applications or business applications. We're seeing more business applications that are limited by the amount of horsepower either in a single system or just that sort of thing. So we tend to have large stacks of machines. I have about 1,500
nodes here at Michigan, and we're actually a relatively small deployment. Purdue installed